The T. Oh, okay. Are you good? I ain't clicked it yet. I haven't clicked it for the streaming. For the recording. Oh, let me click it. I think I have. For the recording. Oh, let me click it. I think I have. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. For the recording. Give me, yeah. Let me click it. I think I have. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. For the recording. Give me, yeah. Let me click it. I think I have. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yep, yep. For the recording. Give me, yeah. Let me click it. I think I have. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yep, yep.
I had to. A little retro. It's the Metal Magician. Expect nothing. You know when highs turn to lows and lows turn to highs. Black water. Black action once again. Giving black. As usual. Yeah. Giving black. A little migration. Minus the stagnation. Elevation. The power of a melanation, eliminating imposters, Doppler radar, chart the stars, cosmic dust, moves rust from eroding cars. I'm Logan, sitting in Lotus at the dojo with Shogun, loading bars and hookahs. Some claim the baller or the shooter, top shotter, name caller. I'm the bell ringer, missing Dale singer, screech saved by the hell bringer. A loose pin in my head caused my dread to fall out. No fear of rules and regulations, laws that have flaws with claws to crawl out. The beast of the belly, flaming heat, torching streets, got me reaching for the Cali, about to go all out. Yeah, my highs turn to lows, my lows turn to highs, my lows.
Yeah, when it happens, we're gonna take over everything. Fuck your schools, fuck your hospitals, fuck your churches. We busting out windows, we shoot through that shit. We holding up fort, we feeding the children. Now let's go into
At any rate, reducing, reproducing, pollution, seeking conclusions, looking on the moon for a human. Soon seen high noon, typhoons, bicycle helicopters, transfuse water dilutes, acidic excuses. I'm reclusive in seclusion, non-conversions, faulty resolution. The lack of cash have me looting, shooting mashed up. I'm on your fumes, pull your hands up with this fire broker smoke here.
I'm a Gram Kush Toter.
Ash and smash, slam, choke you, throw you into hollow earth, breach, birth, come out the other side, feet first, midsummer night, no question for the thirst, there's an oasis, only mirrors, false sensations, 5 heartbeats away from temptation, I leave no traces, waste material, phrases, ethereal, then serial kill you. There's no start to this madness, ending only to begin again, spotting ladders, spotting smart hazards. Ending only to begin again. There's no start to this madness. Ending only to begin again. Spotting ladders, spotting smart hazards.
Now let's go into this madness.
Yeah, I'm a little rebellious. Establishments embezzle, evil church steeples, hypodermic needles, wide receivers try to intercept, can't deceive, expect disease and sex. Crawl in the belly of the beast, feeding on moldy yeast, fried and scalded grease. I suicide or release Al Capone, Tommy gun, street sweeping. I'm the Grim Reaper, soul people call me Morpheus.
Wake you from your sleep state.
I got infinite styles, figure 8. Slither out of formation, skin withering off a weathered snake. Take my medicine every day, 30 minutes before 8. While you're pulling on weights, I'm digging in crates, filling my plates, kick, push, skate. Roll out state to state while you walk, thriller eyes, hypnotized, searching for change. Acting the range while the streets go insane. There's no start to this madness, ending only to begin again. Spotting ladders, spotting smart hazards. Ending only to begin again. There's there's no start to this madness. Ending only to begin again. Spiraling ladders, spiders mark hazards.
Now let's start into this madness.
Yeah, once again, there's the light. It's good. It is another Soulful Soul Food Sunday with Elohee. I'm here on the 27th of October at McQueen's house. We are here just laid back, relaxing from a good day of movements and stuff, doing the thing, keeping on up and up, elevating, and just doing what we got to do to maintain. Basically, maintenance. That's the best thing. Preventive over curative. Maintaining. All right. So, of course, today, being soul food, we are going to be talking about a few things that's related to soul food, food for our soul, basically, not just something to grub on, like with our taste buds, but something to grub on with our mind. You know what I'm saying? Something to really chew on. And be able to enhance our abilities to better take care of ourselves, basically. You know what I'm saying? To be able to be more responsible for ourselves and not be dependent on some external device or some external um, white coat or man or woman or anything like that for our betterment, but basically for the innervation of ourselves and to raise ourselves from a lack of basically healing. All four aspects of healing: spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. So being able to gain access to just to tap into that energy properly and start to grow as we go. You know what I'm saying? Don't just look at it like it's as all types of things that could be the answer. You know what I'm saying? The real answer is the most um, unpredictable, but it's the most present and it's right there, readily available, and that's you. You know what I'm saying? So, I used to say, you know, what we're looking for is right up under our nose. Basically, that's the breath, you know what I'm saying? The intelligence, nature, um, spirit, you know what I mean? But we misplace it sometimes when we forget. So we're gonna give thanks to everyone that's involved, that's going, whoever and all, you know what I'm saying? Give thanks, of course, to Dr. Alim Kadira that's out there keeping it moving to, up the hill, keeping it going up the mountain. Give thanks to the niggas and the guys, all you guys and goddesses out there, kings and queens, peace, prosperity, protection, and good health. Um, like I said, tonight, of course, is Soul Food Sunday. The topic of discussion that we're going to have a discourse on. I was about to say a brief, but sometimes I know I'm a Gemini. I'm a Gemini. I like to communicate. I try not to overly communicate, but I want to get the message out there. So tonight is the hologram, the whole message. And if we run into like 3 hours, I'm going in at 8:40 or something like that, 8:30, 8:40 around the time frame. So I'm trying to get it in at 2, but it is what it is, whatever, however the breath move, you know what I'm saying, however the spirit move, um, that's where we're gonna be at, you know what I mean? So bear with me. Like I said, I'm gonna start off with a brief recap of where we were last week and previously from the KEMETIC dive. I actually had a clip of it right here, so we're gonna start from there and continue. Fine. So you see, that's the actual cover of it there, by Dr. Muwata Ashby. Just a brief synopsis to connect everything from where we were to where we are, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to leave nothing out, so we continue to it's a puzzle. And what puzzles? What do you do with a puzzle? You put the pieces together. So just keep connecting the dots and see how this soul food thing, this soul food picture, this painting, pretty much pans out. All right. So I'm gonna read this again. One should not think in terms of dieting, but of embarking on a lifestyle rather than a diet style, of coming into harmony with with the laws of nature, the divine, as they relate to the physical body. This is the practice of truth and life as it relates to. I'm reading it again. This is the practice of truth and life as it relates to the physical body. For some, this is a difficult step as it requires that they abandon the eating habits of the culture in which they grew up with which they now identify themselves. Thus, there is an emotionally Thus, there is an emotional cultural aspect that also has to be dealt with. For example, the types of food commonly known within the African American community as soul food is integral to to their modern history and culture. However, this diet is probably one of the worst diets with respect to nurturing one's body, mind, and soul. It is anything but soul food. Some call it slave food, as much of its development occurred during the time of American slavery. It is deadly to the physical body and therefore does not nurture one's spiritual evolution. Since one is now free to eat as one pleases, there is really no excuse to continue to eat in this manner, certainly not with the legacy handed down from the ancient Egyptian ancestors. Discovering and implementing the teachings they have left humanity related to diet and health is their legacy, which is yet to be claimed by this generation. As integral as soul food is to the African American community, the meat and potato diet is to the European American community. Again, tradition based in large part on the history of the Wild West and cattle farming is resulting in devastating numbers of people dying and suffering from ill health. Real beef, as it has properly come to be known, is not the proper food for the human body. It is the proper food for carnivores such as dogs, cats, lions, tigers, etc. But humans are not carnivores. Only one has to compare one's dentition teeth to a dog or cat. Every tooth, even the molars in carnivores, ends in a sharp point or a knife-like blade, while the teeth of humans are for nipping, the incisors, and grinding, the molars. Those are the molars that grind, and the incisors are for nipping. In addition, there are many other physiological differences which are discussed. However, the point is meat is not meant for the human body and consequently will result in disease. All right, so that's the segue into everything else basically, but this is as well. So we've been misled over the past few years, about 600 years, that this is what soul food look like. You know, fried chicken, collard greens, corn, macaroni and cheese, black eyed peas. That's the traditional New Year meal right there, basically. You know, get your New Year's Day on with that meal right there. And beyond that, that's just a common meal that we may eat through the week. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe more than once. You know, something that's particularly in that category of the four or basically four basic food groups. But really, I mean, you got your vegetables right there with your collard greens. Got grains with the corn. You got some beans going on. That's some protein. You got cheese and carbohydrate with them shells in there. That's protein and carbohydrate mixed with milk. So that's another protein. Then you got your chicken with carbohydrate flour or grain like flour over on top of it, which and then some type of grease or oil in those collard greens that might be like Wesson or some type of artificial hydrogenated oil with all type of stuff going on that but the body can't really detect as nutrients. And so all these things mixed together can be very catastrophic for the cell or the genome. So it causes destruction more than it causes elevation. As far as soul food is concerned, it's not really in particularly food for the soul of people like us. We definitely are indigenous, and we are equal from as far as first world order entities. That means we were created as a people around the equator, first order, and then spread out throughout the remaining of the planet Earth through a diaspora. But um, in retrospect, what we started out as far as sustenance was definitely grass and green things that were coming straight from the earth and didn't had it bread on there like that, or mixed macaroni shells with cheese and milk and whatever else is involved with that, and then the grease and oils that are put into these things. All these additives and things are causing more destruction than again elevation and longevity. So if we were living for thousands of years before, why we're now living for like 20 and 40 years now. You know what I'm saying? Because it's the standard American diet or whatever that we are now accustomed to is really uh, not. It's a diet. You know what I'm saying? Death, ignorance, and emotion, but it's dying. It's killing the extraterrestrial. But looking at the extraterrestrial like it's a entity coming in from outer space is not a physical entity. The extraterrestrial's intelligence is like the spirit is breath. Extra meaning away from, or extra, saying something that is not in particular from that place. Terra meaning earth, and store means stars. So extraterrestrial. So it's information that's coming from the stars to earth, basically. It's not really saying like it's a green eyed, green being with two big bubbly eyes, you know what I'm saying? But his intelligence is the breath, spirit intact with the breath coming in, giving us answers, if you will, ancestors, you know what I'm saying? Ankh star. All right, so that's not real food. This is what we want is real food. So we're searching for real food, and in our search for real food, we gotta look at certain things. And the hologram that what we're going to talk about tonight, as far as the hologram, we're going to speak on how what we thinking is reality is not really reality, and in searching for sustenance. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna read this real quick after KEMETIC died, and I'm gonna put this book up. What we seem to perceive with our senses is in reality only different aspects of the same substance. That is, when energy vibrates at a high speed, it appears as a light, less dense, less weight. So when energy vibrates at high speed, it appears as light materials such as gas or electricity. When it vibrates at a lower speed, it appears as a solid object such as rocks or metal. The higher the vibrations are, the more subtle the material will appear to be. The slower the vibrations are, the more solid, rigid, and static it will appear to be. When matter vibrates at very high rates, it goes beyond the gaseous state, then matter appears as rays, such as sun rays or X-rays. At higher vibrations, it would be so subtle that it could fit in between the empty spaces in the slowing vibrating matter. It could pass through it or reside in it. This is the subtle realm of the spirit body which inhabits the physical body. So keeping a light lifestyle which promotes higher mental vibrations and a light diet, that's Light, diet, and light thoughts are important as well, are very important. All right, so keeping a light lifestyle, which promotes higher mental vibrations, and a light diet, or a light form of sustenance, and light thoughts are important. All right, so this is a quote right here from Dr. Sebi. Real soul food is food that enhances the soul, our central sun, our melanin, our carbon, fruits, vegetables, and grains. This is the real soul food. All right, good, thanks. Now I'm gonna show you. This is Queen got my plate over here, and I want to give you a good view of soul food. And this is what we do at least once a day. I had a good big breakfast this morning, one for the first time in a long time, and it was good. Me and Queen made it for the family. Thank you, baby. Um, so everybody ate, grandma, mama, daughter, niece. Queen, and myself. And it was good stuff. I give thanks for it. So this is the plate right here. Very colorful. It's, like I said, eat the rainbow. So you got everything on here that's raw. This is basically raw minus the queen. I know this is couscous. So we have fruits, vegetables, and grains right here. Food for the soul, all raw. Avocado, tomatoes. The salad is basically spinach and romaine lettuce. You got strawberries in there. Some hummus right up over under here like that, as well as what else in here?
Cucumber, avocado, bell
Cucumbers,
peppers,
bell peppers,
tomato.
cucumbers, and it's all raw and it's good. It's food for the soul. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna get into all that, but soul is from Latin meaning sun or bright. All right, so getting this light in and everything from different perspectives and different angles. You know what I'm saying? We might call them angels of light or angles of light. But this light is coming down, and anything that is involved with, for instance, saying a hologram, holograms need one thing in order for it to um, survive or basically be what it is, and that is light or information. You know what I'm saying? Intelligence. So, and going back to like soul, so our soul is taking in light. You know what I mean? The soul is like the flat surface. We're gonna get into all that. So we got like 4 dimensions that we deal with on a day to day. Everything and everyone. Dot, line, angle, and time space, or height, width, length, time space. It depends on what you want to look at as far as the 4 dimensions. We're gonna go into that information now. And give thanks to Queen for putting this together. I want to eat like right now, but I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna eat a little bit. Fruits, fruits first. Well, I got tea. So liquids first, then fruits, then vegetables, salad. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. Then the carbohydrates, and then the protein. That's the correct order of consuming food and digestion. The most alkalizing substance first, and then the least alkalizing as far as protein and carbohydrates. That go in last. Carbohydrates and proteins. Because proteins and carbohydrates have a longer amino acid chain, so it's going to take it longer to digest. Eat the fruit first because it doesn't take long to digest. Go on through the body. There won't be no delay. Won't be no putrefaction either, because if you put that protein in there first and then put the fruit, then what's going to happen is the longer chain, where the food is going to take longer to digest. It's going to bypass the fruit, and the fruit is going to sit in the stomach, and that's like 97 degrees, 80, depending on the person. So that's heat on fruit, and it's going to ferment and then putrefy and be old within 2 hours. It'd be sport. And, what I'm saying, wondering what's going on with our liver, and I don't even drink. But continue doing stuff like that, eating like fruits and stuff after the stronger foods like carbohydrates and proteins. It'll cause digestion to be flawed. All right, so I'm gonna eat food of these fruits. That's good. I get strawberry, blackberry right now. I don't want to tell you about, but I can't eat and talk at the same time. I appreciate you. Man, like my parts up. So that's a very prevalent quote right there from the good Dr. Sebi. Get thanks, you know what I'm saying, for that brother and his information and his life, love his whole life and everything that he gave and is still giving to the community. You know what I mean? He's a powerful brother, beautiful brother. You know what I'm saying? Good heart. love is the greatest power, and it is, if natural, the highest invisible food from the infinite for soul and body. So, you know what I mean? As we talking about food, but basically love is the greatest power, and it is, if natural, the highest invisible food from the infinite for soul and body. Love is mind, basically balance, order, and in particular, you know what I'm saying, love, so reciprocity, equanimity, or equality, so all those things, all those aspects of life that we should be paying more attention to naturally is an invisible food that we are sometimes not even acknowledging due to, the food that we thinking is real, you know what I'm saying, that hologram. That the real food ain't coming from, eating every day, all day, you know what I'm saying? If it ain't coming out of Arby's or Bojangles or Chicken Filet, or even Whole Food, farmers market, nothing like that. That's not the real food. Now it may be more intact inside of like produce and fruits and vegetables. Of course, yes, the light. But like we're saying, if you're gonna eat something, have a light diet, so you have light thoughts. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where love is coming from. Love is indivisible and it's invisible. You can't really split up love. You can't say I love you one minute, giving hugs, and then say I love you the next minute, punching them. You know what I'm saying? But love is love. You know what I'm saying? So love is unconditional. It don't change. Don't raise his voice and scream and cut somebody out one minute and then try to hug them and say I love you next minute. You know what I mean? Love is always the same. It's gonna be what it is. You know what I mean? Um, so we're gonna continue. This, of course, is not what you want. That's not love. Ain't no love in that. That I mean, we lust that because of the gratification we may acquire, but that's because of the chemical additives and how addictive it is, and that feel good. You know what I'm saying? It's comfort food. I got something going on, so I go get me a bag of Takis, or I go get a hamburger or a cheeseburger, or you know what I'm saying. You see all these different items, even ramen noodles up there. There's like fiberglass going in the body. You know what I'm saying, cutting up all type of things in the percadium, the heart cover, the cover of the heart, or what protects the heart. I mean, it puts little slits in there every time we eat certain things, as well as adrenaline being produced in the body for no reason. So that stress may that may be produced due to whatever's going on in life, and then when we go and do these things like smoking, drinking, and eating a poor diet, it causes more infliction to the percadium because we're putting all these things. So we have these little tears of our heart, and it's always continuously happening, and then next thing you know we might have some type of heart issues. So relax into it and get some of this right here going on in the body. You know what I'm saying? Some nutritious type of things, good versus bad. You see over here, that stuff ain't right for us. You know what I mean? None of that's good. There's nothing in there for the soul. That's not food for the soul. That's food for the body. You know what I'm saying? The body feel real crazy, and the other day me and Queen ordered out, and I get thanks to and everything. I told them because it was a Chinese restaurant, and you have to ask for, you got to tell them no MSG. Like, so she forgot to mention the no MSG. We got some veggies and stuff, but like veggie delight or something like that, and some broccoli. But she had forgot to tell them the MSG. We ate it. Next thing you know, we are outside sprinting. We are actually having a race. I mean, it's like 30 minutes later, but then all night we just doing some opposite. I mean, just all over the place. Just calling people with some app on Instagram, like for 30 minutes. We call everybody in the phone, family wise and friends, with some type of video with us acting crazy, so just saying crazy. But every other segment or every time we film something, she would always mention it got to be the MSG. And then I was thinking that, like, yeah, this is the MSG, especially when we was outside racing. It's like 10 o'clock. at night, and we racing, we sprinting and shit. I was like, okay, we going in. It's the MSG. But yeah, so these chemical additives they enhance but certain things, but they're addictive. So we go back the next day getting things. We need nutritious foods, which will also be somewhat addictive if one will continuously place that in the body. Like right now, I definitely don't want no Chinese food with MSG. But yesterday we was working somewhere at a group home and didn't have the availability of normal salad. Actually, yeah, she brought me a salad and I ate that, but well, yeah, it was pretty good and it filled me up. No, it didn't really fill me up. It's not really like that. But anyway, I'm gonna start ranting. Give thanks, but she didn't. She hadn't ate. That's what it was. So we ordered. And I went ahead and ordered some broccoli too, and I ate a little bit of what she had brought. I really didn't eat that much, but I did take in something. All right. So now we're gonna go into the read a little bit and talk a bit about what we're gonna be going through tonight. You know what I'm saying, as far as the info on Holo-Gram. So again, Holo-Gram is if you're looking at the word from an etymological point of view, first the definition of a hologram is a three-dimensional image formed by the interference of light beams from a laser or other coherent light source. Alright, so that's a hologram. It's from the Greek word holos, whole, which means whole, and then the other word gram, which basically means word. Alright, so the whole word or the whole message, gram, like telegram or Instagram, the instant message or the instant word. Alright, so when we're looking at a hologram, I'm gonna go through different breakdowns or definitives of that word hologram in a few minutes. So you see that point, line, plane, solid. So these are the dimensions, the zero dimension or the 0 point plane or the 0 point realm. That dimension is based on nothingness or non-movement. It's the undifferentiated energy matter, the Dwat, the Bardo. It's the realm of nothingness. You know what I'm saying? Amenta. The subconscious um, side of the conscious, or the physical plane. Is where everything begins and nothing ends. Is infinite, is unknown yet known. You know what I'm saying? Everything that we thinking, everything we know, everything we don't know resides within that 0 point field. Some may call it the quantum field, you know what I'm saying, as far as in quantum physics. Then you have the one dimensional, that's where movement begins, you know what I'm saying, as far as like dark energy, dark matter. Outside of that field, that point is like a flat surface, basically. That flat surface then emits some type of light outwardly, which begins to form the two-dimensional reality, which is basically curves. And that's the two-dimensional is a plane. So you have that point of nothingness, zero dimension, that goes into the line, which would be the first dimension. And then you have the plane, which is the second dimension, the two-dimensional reality. When that plane begins to curve, it then connects and forms the solid reality or the third dimension, what we are participating with now as far as in the physical reality. So that solid plane or the third dimension um, builds what we have as height, width, and length. You know what I mean? And then from the perspective of being able to actually view it and participate with it um, in space, which would be from 0 to 2, what from zero, well, line, plane, solid, all resides within space. So when we connect time to that, or movement, basically, because time is not what we think, time is movement. So space, time, or movement, then we have the fourth dimension. And the fourth dimension is space, time. Let me go to this slide real quick. All right, so Space is the boundless three-dimensional extent in which objects and events have relative position and direction. Physical space is often conceived in three linear dimensions, although modern physicists usually consider it with time to be part of a boundless four-dimensional continuum known as space-time. So that's what space-time is. Space is like the other three dimensions. That would be here again. The point is basically zero dimension. Then you have from the point, you have the line. From the line, that's movement. The beginning of the movement within space-time or space. But basically space-time. Time is movement. And then you have the plane, and then the solid. Those are the first three dimensions. And then the fourth dimension again is space-time. And that's where the physical reality as related to physical observation is taking place in that side of that movement. All right. So now we're gonna break down the word hologram. So hologram, whole, and message or whole word. So the whole message from Greek holos, and then it's from Old English hal as well, entire, unhurt, healthy. And so we're looking at the word, the definition for health right there. It is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely absence of disease or infirmity. So the mere absence of disease is not true health. There are three dimensions of health. Health, basically, what I say is spiritual, mental, and emotional. And well, basically, the three that we consider as far as the perspective of most people is mental, emotional, and physical. Complete well-being on those three dimensions plus the fourth dimension of spiritual. So that's that time, space, and the movement, what I'm saying, to create what we are seeing as far as in the physical reality. What I'm saying? The space time is the movement of what we may say time and effort. Is the gung, inside the chi gung, the time and effort to skill the breath. What I'm saying? But the fourth dimension, spiritual, is breath. Breath, again, in Latin is spirit. Spiritus is to breathe. So that fourth dimension is where health is connected to the physical, the mental, and the emotional bodies. So again, emotion is energy in motion. So as spirit moves through the mind, what I'm saying, that flat surface of the soul, what I'm saying, it begins to um, basically discombobulate into different aspects of spirit by way of mind and its activities. And then it becomes energy in motion as it forms into the physical realities that we deal with, but all those are illusionary. Okay, we're gonna get into that in a few too. All right, so that's health from that angle right there. That's a hologram of a hamburger. If it looks that real from the holographic perspective, what are we really eating in the first place? I'll just leave that up there for a second. All right, so we're going back into health from Proto-Indian European Calio, whole, uninjured, a good omen or good sign. Um, then we also can look at holo or halo as holy, meaning from Old English halig, holy, consecrated, sacred. Um, Helag from Old Saxon. These old European languages. Gothic, halags, holy. Um, but also the Old English again, Hal goes back to health. And Old High German, Heil, Heil means health, happiness, and good luck. So that health is that four realms of health again is spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. So when I say good health, from my perspective, those four dimensions of health are very imperative for growth. What I'm saying? Self growth as well as growth for all in the collective. but another thing that we're looking at inside of this, as far as like from where we get in holy, and also where we're going to get the word for Haru, from hollow to Haru. So hollow, HOLO, you interchange that L to a R inside of the Kemetic sense of the Metuneter, and it produces Haru or Haro. And this is a picture of corn, a hologram of corn. And if you ever went through the Metuneter initiation system, one thing in the first meditation is that we meditate on Osar, you know what I'm saying? Osar being elevated back into the throne, and then we go into the Aset, which Aset basically means throne, but we focus on the Osar principle first. And Osar, what the meditation was about is like you say this mantra or chant and everything, this haiku, and in the visualization, we visualize ourselves as Osar in the garb right here, like that. That's a holographic piece of corn. You know what I mean? But we would be in the garb of Osar like that right there. And we would be in a cornfield um, with like one piece of corn, and then we see all the other pieces of corn and notice that they're all in the collective together. And we will see ourselves as the corn as well, if I'm not mistaken. And it's been years since I actually did that, but it was like you go through that and you say, you basically saying to yourself that I am the higher intelligence. I am not just um, this body, this mind, whatever, this ego, this name and form that is present inside of the mirror or the reflection, saying outwardly. So it enhances other principles within the body too, because you're taking in the breath. But that's just as far as like that corn is concerned. The corn, the holographic corn, Holo-Gram, Holo-Gram. You know what I'm saying? So this right here is the Holo-Gram. That is light. Haru meaning light. So hollow, and then gram. This is Majat Wafa. It's basically the words of it's a conversation book, but it's breaking down English to Metuneta. You know what I'm saying? So Metuneta, the word Metuneta, Netia meaning divine, Matu meaning word, script, or whatever, or language. So the divine language, the language of the gods. Basically it's hieroglyphics. You see hieroglyphs right there. So hero, Haru, glyphs, hieroglyphs. What is gram? Is words. So glyphs are words or pictures. Hyro is light. So hologram, Haru-Gram or hologram. So because that hollow, the L in the hollow can be changed to an R. So you have hieroglyphs or Haru-Gram, Haru-glyphs. You know what I'm saying? So light words, words of light. Like light diet or light food, light sources of sustenance, light thoughts. So we're going to look at what gram is in this book. So we have gur right there, silent, be quiet or silent, gur, GR, right here. Make sure I'm pointing it out properly. Where's the light? Oh, I have to go back. Right there. Be quiet, silent, as gur, GR, gur. And then right here. And so you can see it. M. Okay. Ooh, too much light. Am, that means brain. Or amim, you know what I'm saying? Brain. Right there. Okay. So what we're looking at is light, the silent light of the mind or brain, the silent light that goes through the brain. If you want to say brain, basically, the intelligence, silent light. Is like we're saying, the invisible source or the invisible food, soul food, that silent light, Holo-Gram or Holo-Gram, or what I'm saying, hologram. So that silent light that's flowing through our breath, the intelligence, the spirit, what I'm saying? Spirit, mental, or spirit then through the mind, brain, whatever. That silent spirit through the mind. So that's gram. And that's that light. So, what I'm saying, that goes the energy and motion that goes into the physical reality and forms what we thinking we looking at. You know what I'm saying? But it's really that intelligence, that unseen, that invisible source, that 0 point field or whatever. Then it flows into the line, that light. Then from that light, it goes into different angles or curves, like the sine wave and all that, infinity. But then it connects and forms all of these things, the infinite possibilities, the 10,000 mirage of things, whatever we want to call it, but that's outside of the spirit or, from the Gram, Haru Gram. So that's the light, the silent light of the mind. You know what I'm saying? Silent again, spirit, light, spirit, brain. I mean, so Ger is um, silent or to be quiet or the quiet, the meditation. You know what I'm saying? So going into that stillness of mind, that quietness, that the quiet space, that I'm saying, that where we can really collect ourselves and acquire more potentiality to grow properly or power to grow properly. Get back to the reading and the scenes inside of the readings. There you go. I like to have visualizations up so we can have a better, acquire better participation as far as who we are and what we are, and stay. I don't want you to go to sleep on me. If I'm just reading something, and it ties into everything, corresponds to what I'm talking about and what we're going through as far as the literature is concerned. So I'm a very visual person as well as a very audio type person, so audio, video, or whatnot. Um, so it's good to have things like that. That picture is pertaining to us rising again inside of who we are. Go back to the read right here. So Haru-Gram, Haru meaning light again. Then we're looking at Metu here as well. Metu meaning word or script, and Netu meaning divine, but holy also means consecrated, sacred, or divine. So holy, you go Hor, here Haru again, her meaning face, and Metanetta, but right now, so holy or gram, and gram meaning text or word, goes into also like Kaddish. That's Hebrewic Kaddish meaning holy, and then but when you're thinking about the Bible, since Bible means book or words as well, from Biblos, um, that could be from a modern Jebel or Lebanon, because past is Biblos was an area in Lebanon, Jebel. So it was the name of a Phoenician port where Egyptian papyrus was exported to Greece. And that's where we get the word biblos, but it also means basically paper or book. So that papyrus or papyrus, so when we think about metaneta, you got divine word, but then you go back into Holy Bible. Holy is again divine, and book is biblos. So we have right there, um, biblos is book, and holy is could be netir. So you have book, which is words, book of words, and um, and holy, which is natir. So again, it goes right to medu natir. Medu natir then could be translated to hologram because haru, holy, and then gram, um, literature or like you're texting somebody, but words basically. So holy words, haru, gram, holy words is equivalent to um, or haru, light words. You know what I'm saying? Words of light, words of truth, or words from the intelligence. So they're holy and divine. But it can be connected to or coincide with Holy Bible, which is holy, divine, natir, and then Bible book or words. So Medu Natir again, which is holy script, or hologram, Haru-Gram, or um, whole script or whole message. You know what I mean? Is the hologram good or bad? It depends on where you are looking for, what you're looking for, and how much you were researching. But going back into the word like Haru meaning light, and then you're thinking about where holy is derived from is helio. Helio is a Greek derivation of what we call sun. And the sun gives off what light, so helio is helio when you change the L again to R, so you have Heru again. So helio is Haru all over again. Rise again, you know what I mean? So Haru also, when you're thinking about light, you think also of the sun. The Latin word for sun is sol. All right, so sunlight, sun, but then you go. So what we're looking at then, or what we can decipher from that, is helio, um, biblos, which is words. So helio meaning sun, biblos meaning book or words. So the sun book, or the words of light. So it goes back to Haru-Gram, words of light, or hologram. All right, so Helios Biblos. So when we're thinking or utilizing that type of discernment or deciphering, we're breaking down the words, and as far as in the etymology, you can see a more, um, I guess, an ultimate reality within those those type of words, and the place of what is given to us in the hologram. You see where the hologram is coming from is basically, and that's what all things. Don't just place it within those words. I'm just giving you the breakdown on hologram for a moment. You know what I'm saying? So it can go into different realms with it. It ain't just one angle. It's the angles of light. Okay, so that Haru, and Haru is the son of Osiris. Osiris is basically the Latinized form of the word Usar or Osur, Ausar. What we was just looking at a second ago. Here we go. Osur, you know what I'm saying? With the flail and the crook, like we was talking about. The flail, it whoops the lower self, ties it in a knot basically, and brings the lower self. You see that staff right there? That's the wasp staff. It's pertaining to the hippocampus, the hippocampus rather. And then you have the crook right there that brings or after taming it with the whip or the flail, the lower self, the animal nature, you tame it and bring it back up to the pineal gland region. As you can see that Dogon type head dress right there, representative of a beehive, basically. Because we as our ancestors, as indigenous people, we utilize symbols within all things, and we will bring correspondences to those things in reality to a head without really saying that. We just looked at the symbol, You know, that's intelligence, the invisible, unspoken yet spoken. You know what I'm saying? You can gain different things outside of that. And that's the hieroglyphs, you know, basically metaneta, um holy words, you know what I'm saying? So this is actually a still of movements within the hieroglyphs. This is Matura, or the original karate. You know, Ka, spirit, Ra, light, Te, land. So the spirit of light, or you know what I'm saying, that light information coming to the land for exercise and also for protection, you know what I'm saying, self defense. But that's the first system right there of what we would call kung fu or karate today. You know what I mean? This is Matura. Coming off of the hieroglyphs, you know, so that's the word of light. So gram is also a message, you know what I'm saying? So the whole message, that which is written, gram is that which is written or marked, from Greek grammar, that which is drawn, a picture, a drawing, that which is written, a character, an alphabet letter, written letter, piece of writing, a message in plural, letters, also papers, documents of any kind. So that's like with the hieroglyph. A glyph is basically a picture or drawing that which is written, something is written. So a character. So that's where we go with when we're looking at hologram. So hologram, you know, saying again, gram in metuneta though is gur, silent, and am is mind or whatever. So the light, the silent light of the mind, meditation. You know, saying the intelligence going into the mind in order to become more mindful, but also to tame the senses, the five senses. And so the message, you know, you can look at that word, you can see Messiah within that message. And Messiah basically means anointed or to anoint. Masha is from Hebrew Masha, to anoint. You know, so message is to anoint. And what is anointing though? It gives one light on the forehead, you know what I'm saying? The pineal gland region, the middle. So also meso, which means middle or intermediate, you know what I'm saying? Um, you know, so meso, and then sage is wise. So age, meaning sage, meaning a wise person or whatnot. So you have wise from the middle. So that third eye or first eye, however we want to look at it, within the middle. This right here is a picture of the holographic universe, if you will. You know, is a concept that some people deal with. The holographic principle it states that entropy, entropy, which is like thermodynamic. It's a thermodynamic quantity representing the unavailability of a system's thermal energy. Thermal energy is basically like gases and anything that's not solid. So you got um, different things like that, like we're saying, that's not solid. Um, and then you have that is converted, or thermal energy is converted into mechanical work, which would be physical. So it's like gases, liquid state into a solid state. So those three dimensions, like with line, um, angle, and then the actual connection within that physical reality. Uh, hold up. Line, plane, solid. All right, so that's like again, gas, liquid, and then solid. Three main processes within the physical reality. But I know that was kind of like that was loaded right there. What I just said, thermodynamic quantity represent the unavailability of a system's thermal energy for conversion to mechanical work, often interpreted as the degree of disorder or randomness in the system. It's not just a black hole; it's also proportional to surface area and not volume. That volume itself is illusory, and the universe is really a hologram, which is isomorphic. Isomorphic means corresponding or similar in form and relations. So all of that volume and everything that we thinking we looking at, the volume itself is illusory, and the universe is really a hologram, which is isomorphic to the information inscribed on the surface of its boundary. So isomorphic again means corresponds to or is similar in form and relations. So everything that we are looking at again that we thinking is real is really only corresponding to the information that's inscribed on the surface of the boundary of that flat surface or whatnot within the holographic principle. So when gas and liquid starts to have some type of influence through time space and the ideas and thoughts of the consciousness that's connected to the gas and liquid forms into the actual physical solid. You know, that's basically because the information that's inscribed by way of the intelligence is floating through by way of thought or idea and thought. Then the formulation of the physical goes back into what the light, saying, from that unknown, the light movement and everything goes back into uh, as it starts to have different curvatures in it, that DNA then it goes to the physical and forms a solid. I was just saying, the thermodynamic quantity represents this is entropy. The holographic principle states that the entropy of ordinary mass is also proportional to surface area and not just volume. So we think in the volume, which is basically the mass, so of ordinary mass is not on proportional is proportional to surface area. So the whole area, the space, you know what I'm saying? Not just what we're looking at. That volume itself is illusory. And the universe is really a hologram, which is isomorphic, which basically means it's forming the information that we're looking at, or the thing that we're looking at is being formed by way of light, you know what I'm saying? By way and the information is already um, been placed there prior, you know what I'm saying, by way of the movement from one angle to the next angle and that curvature as it builds up information and then forms into whatever the consciousness is available at that place being. So that goes back to epigenetics somewhat. 80% of our reality is formed from external means and measures. What we thinking we looking at as a universe is actually a hologram off a flat surface, as you see that down at the bottom. Then the light is being emitted. So you got that flat surface, and then that 0 point. Then you have the line or light going out. Then you form the plane, and then that connects into the solid. What we thinking as is real. And there's only 10% of the universe. Basically, like they say, we use 10% of our brain. The other 90% we don't use, which I think is bullshit. If you access it, you can use it if you know how to get into that realm properly. So we're looking at the same thing in the universe. Thinking we only 10% solid or 10% is being used. As far as what I'm saying, the planets, stars, asteroids, comets, and all those different things, what I'm saying, galaxies. In retrospect, though, we have dark energy and dark matter, which makes up the other 90% of what we would call the universe, the holographic universe, if you will, whatever. But basically, that's in the brain, just in the mind. So that silent light of the mind, or that silent light that flows through everything in existence that permeates all, is not being represented or presented to us properly as far as in our lessons, you know what I'm saying? So this is a different way of looking at hologram from a more higher perspective, not just like, we're looking at that burger earlier, or be thinking about something that's fake, because all these things in reality is not real, it's not permanent, so it's transitory. So it goes from one to another. You eat a banana, you shit it out. You eat another banana. You know what I'm saying? But we keep continuing because that's what's inscribed on the flat surface or whatever. So we continually form that banana the next day. I just use that as hypothetically speaking, as far as what a delusionary reality or a hologram is based on. But it's just that we put light to it or information, we put energy to certain things, and it reforms each day. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what the collective is thinking is real. So we think that tree right there, it's gonna be a tree right there collectively. You know what I mean? So you want something positive to happen collectively, we have to go through different, something different, basically. You know what I mean? So this is scripture. Matthew 6:22 is where Jesus or Yeshua, or however you want to say it, says, "The lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, the whole body shall be full of light." And also in Genesis 32:30, when before Jacob battled with the angel of God, if you will, or the angel of light, again, Osar or Osiris means power. You know what I'm saying? So power also is equivalent to El, which is the Hebrew God, Pineal. You know what I'm saying? So Panu or Pinu means face of God, face to face. So he said in that scripture, Genesis 32:30, Jacob stated, "It is because I have saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared," when they went through that Jacob's ladder deal thing right there. So Jacob called the place Peniel or Pinal, saying, "It is because I have seen God face to face." You know what I'm saying? In other words, Jesus right here, or Yeshua, talking about the lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, the whole body shall be full of light. As well as Jacob talking about, "I've named this place Peniel because I have seen God face to face and my life was spared." What he's mentioning is both aspects of what they're mentioning or referring to is the pineal gland, the first or third eye. You know what I'm saying? So that pineal gland, first, third eye, the meditation point, it lies right in the geometric center of our brain, sagittally. So what we're talking about sagittally, that means split in between. So it's right there in the middle of our brain, and what we say meso, message, wise, middle, the wisdom, middle of the, the wisdom of the middle. You know what I'm saying? Basically, message. But that's also a gram, so that was Holo-Gram, the whole message or the Holo message. But basically, we're going to say center of our brain, which is then, but where it's going into the center of our brain, that silent light. All right, so that's that meditation point right there. And when we go into that realm, we slow down our thought waves. And then, when you slow down your brain waves through meditation or sensory deprivation, which basically means not reacting to certain emotions or energy emotion, or even entheogens, which basically are chemical substances that are in plants like um, peyote or mushrooms or DMT and grass. You know what I'm saying? If you eat grass like a cow, but DMT as well. But these chemical substances produce a non-ordinary state of consciousness, basically for higher spiritual purposes. You go into different realms, different dimensions, other than just the four basic dimensions that we deal with now. Get a sip of this tea. All right, so what happens then? It will usually somewhat deactivate the left brain, basically, so it slow it down, and it eases off and allows access to the higher holistic right brain. And through that process, the pineal gland, which the Bible calls the dwelling place of God, or El, pineal, face of God, dwelling place, pineal, face to face, is where Jacob or Jakub Yakub means the supplanter. Basically, that means to grab the ankle. Some grabbed his ankle and was wrestling him. But that was the so-called angel of God. Some say it was Michael. You know what I'm saying? Michael means who dares to be like God, or he who dares to have the power. Power. El means power. Again, Osiris, Usir, Usir, where we get the word Osar and Osiris from. Usir means power. So El also means power. But that is going into like where the words are developed from. So the dwelling place of God, pineal, is the place of God, pineal gland, the middle, the middle within the wisdom within the middle. So we're looking at this galaxy right here within the eye world. That's like the wash. That's a wash. I think that's what it's called, a wash. That's what it looks like. You know, as far as in the eye, but the third eye, the first eye, the galaxy, we have something called the substantia nigra within the brain, inside of the hypothalamus, and the 12 cranium nerves and whatnot. But the substantial nigra basically means substantial darkness. And inside that substantial darkness is something called astrocytes. Astrocytes means basically astral star and sites, or so places of stars is inside of the brain, or the substantial nigra, substantial darkness. So the universe, and then you got stars, but all that's inside the brain, the mind, that silent Holo-Gram, you know what I'm saying? That silent light of the mind, or the brain, you know what I mean? And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a second, more about that in a few minutes, and what in particular that is mentioning. So we have this as a hieroglyph or metunetir. That is the Eye of Haru on the left hand side right there. The Wajet or whatnot, the green one. And this is actually the place of the hippocampus right in there, in the hypothalamus, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland. I'll show you this next picture right here. A lot of people have a misconception of what this is. You know what I mean? And they look at it in a very negative manner. I actually like my shirt right here. You like my shirt right here? So, I got the Haru on my shirt right here, and I'm gonna explain what this is. It's a symbol, of course. So ancestors didn't just put things on the wall for no reason, just haphazardly, just gonna throw an eye up there, say, oh, look at this eye, it's pretty, yeah. And then they walk around with the eyes painted like this and stuff. It just like with the gauges or with the plugs, all this for even with the like tiger's eye, and I got this right here for a reason. And I think I explained it once, but anyway, I was at a store in the country setting, and it was a European Caucasian woman, whatnot. Good things, whatnot. It ain't about that, but she saw the skulls, right? And she saw the tiger's eye, but she asked me. She said, "What is that on your arm?" And I was like, "Oh, it represents my ancestors. It represents my dad. He passed away 5 years ago, so I got 5 skulls for each year of his passing. So next year I can get another skull on there and whatnot." So she was like, "Oh, I thought it was some voodoo or something." I was like, I got quiet. I didn't even want to respond to it. I didn't reply, and I just was like, "Oh no, it's not voodoo. It's just me giving thanks and paying reverence to my ancestors." You know what I mean? And it is like it engulfs a certain type of emotion when I look at it, but it's a higher emotion. It's happiness. You know what I'm saying? It ain't sad. So, but she just reflected on that due to the fact of her unknownness. But that happens because of symbols. People look at certain symbols and they thinking it is what it is, like the M at McDonald's and the red and yellow that's encased around that M. So when you put red and yellow together, you get the color orange. Orange actually induces hunger in the person. So if you just got somebody that won't eat, you put orange around them, they start stimulating digestion, because orange is what part of the endocrine system, as far as in the chakras. The orange color goes from red to orange, which is right there located in the abdomen region you know what I'm saying, as far as a cycle, and it starts to enhances one's availability to eat again. You know what I'm saying? This is known in medical science. It ain't nothing I'm just making up to go. Today is called color therapy. But so you put red and yellow together, you get the color orange. Then you got this M, 13th letter. And M means water, basically. M. You know what I'm saying? So you got that word, that letter M. It also means blood. It also means chaos, as far as in Hebrew. You know what I'm saying? So when you're thinking about water, you're thinking about change. You're thinking about the inevitability or whatever, the imminent process of change. You know what I'm saying? Because it's moving, it's forever moving. But when you're thinking about chaos, without order and a balance, then that change is going to be somewhat obstructed. So they put this thing with hunger right there with this M, the 13th letter, which is the splits on the 26 letters within the English alphabet. So it's the midway point. So the midway point, meso, you know what I'm saying, the message inside of like just that symbol alone is a wise symbol or whatever, you know what I mean, as far as in the middle, wise in middle wisdom, because it's the M also represents the woman, or in what we speak on, the divine, you know what I'm saying, as far as mother nature. Nature is divine. So the woman principle or the feminine principle is very powerful, you know what I mean, as far as how that is the womb of creation. You know, not to go too far in on that, but so symbols have a very powerful message within it, you know, inside the hologram. So our ancient ancestors put things together like that. Our Haru, you know, on the shirt here, Wajet, that explain more than what we thinking. So they, you know, they talk about this thing on the dollar bill and the Illuminati and all that, try to displace us mentally and physically from our past, basically. But you gotta look behind you to see how far we come. So when they do all these fear things, you know what I'm saying, place information or mislead us with misinformation about the truth in our experience, it again misguides us and takes us down dreary words of roads of destruction, dreary roads of destruction, where we start just in our confusion or in our chaos, we start to act out in the mentalities of what they are teaching us as far as what these symbols may be, instead of doing our own research and due diligence to really relate to who we are. So I'm gonna break down what our root is saying in this symbol over here to the left, and it also as far as where it's connected to this symbol that's right there on the right. That's particularly where the pineal gland, hypothalamus, and pituitary gland are located. So I'm going to this picture here. So you see, same thing basically. Got the cerebellum back there. Is that where that circle is? And then you have the spinal cord, the brain stem, where that back part of the eye of Haru. Then you have the pineal gland right there in the front, pituitary gland. I mean, in the back, the pituitary gland is towards the front. And then right here, the cerebral cortex, consciousness, memory. We call it, it's forethought as far as in the other parts of the symbol, which we're about to get into now. So you see that symbol within this symbol right here. You know what I mean? The eye of Haru. Then you have what's located in the actual brain of humans right there with the pineal gland, the spinal cord right there, the brain stem coming up, the hypothalamus right here. I mean, not the hypothalamus, but the medulla oblongata, cerebellum, all that to the rear part of the brain. And then you have the pituitary gland there, and the cerebral cortex, where we have critical thinking and cognitive thoughts, memory, all that going on in the frontal lobes right there. And this is where it originated from. As far as what the symbol is, the eye, Haru or Wajet, Haru, the light, the green light, you know what I'm saying? And we have that meditation inside of Washita, the Washita Semi Twilight, or the light that connects both sides. Semitwai means both sides. Semitwai, like yoga, which basically is to unite both sides or unite the physical and the spiritual, the physical and the breath, the intelligence. And then Wajet or Washet is the energy that goes up or the green light. Haru Wajet. So we have these 5 or 6 different perspectives on what Wajet is. It's the senses. All right, so sensory deprivation. If you read that, it says Horus was an ancient god of Egypt and usually depicted as a falcon, the eye of Horus. That's the eye of Horus, or Haru. Eye of Ra, as it is also sometimes called, or the eye of light, Ra, light, or energy, sunlight, um, can be turned to the left and to the right. The left eye represents the moon and the god Tahuti, or Thut, Hermes. And the right eye is the eye of Ra and is associated with the sun. The symbol is worn to protect from evil spirits and for protection. When we are in particular speaking on these principles and these deities, we're relating the deity to forces of energy or energy in motion that flows by way of light. So the eye for Ru, when it's to the left, represents the moon and the god Jehuti. When it's to, or Tehuti, when it's to the right is the eye of Ra and it's associated with the sun. All right, so Tahuti is the god of wisdom or of words. Tahuti actually means to weigh words. You know what I'm saying? Whereas Ma'ati, his cohort, Ma'at, balance, T, both sides. So to balance both sides. Tahuti, I mean, actually means to weigh both sides. Tahu and T. So when you weigh in both sides is by discerning what we're telling ourselves. Tahuti is the deity or the force or principle of wisdom, which basically is words in some perspectives. So words of light, you know what I'm saying? So Ra is light, the sun or whatever, and then Tahuti, words of wisdom. So wisdom's a light. So that is the spectrum or the what some make speak as light spectrums. So light spectrums is like photons, photonic energy. Photon is Pata'an. Ptah is a deity within Metaneta as well, but that's a force and principle. So Ptah, Pet meaning heaven, Ta meaning earth, and On meaning light or sun. So photo basically is light and on sun. So light, sun, but when you're looking at Pata'an, you have the light from heaven to earth. You know what I mean? So that light from heaven to earth comes down and gives us these physical realities that we are participating with. So that sunlight, again, coming from 0 point, so that it forms into a line, sunlight, then it goes into a plane where it has curves and everything, and from that curve it forms into the solid reality that we think and we participate with by way of these senses here. So when you're looking at the actual, well, let me read this too. The name Wajet derives from the word Waj, that means green, the green one, and was known by the Greeks and Romans as the risen one. So rise again, as I placed up here in the picture, one of the first pictures. Also rise again. All right, Wajet. The Wajet was the central element of 7 bracelets found on the mummy Shoshink II and was intended to protect the king in the afterlife. That was the 7 chakras or the 7 different colors of the spectrum. Again, light spectrum or um, spectra, words. So these five senses, and as well as six senses here, are broken down within this symbol here of the Wajet or the Eye of Horus, the Eye of Ra. You know, when we go into the think tank of our ancestors and how they utilize these symbols or holograms, Holo-Gram, Holo-Gram, or these holy words, these holy symbols, divine symbols, to reflect and then detect um, truth within their experience to a drawing or and like this allegorical statement that is within it. We tend not to look at something if it's scary. You know what I'm saying? We try to look at it, but then we get scared or fearful, and we take it for what it is as far as the scary part. And that's what we just relate to. We do our research, we can look at a scary movie and find that there's really some symbolism in it as well that's not relating to the scary aspect, but we dealing with our emotions in that realm. We're going to form more scary shit outside of ourselves, and that's going to just make us scared of whatever we're looking at. Not we ain't going to see the truth in the making or the truth in the matter. All right, so the heart of the matter, which is basically the truth. So when we're looking at smell, that's that I just go into back here. So the the nose or smell is right here. Then you have the eye right here, the ear. So you see how the ear, the nose pointing like going this way. Then you have the tongue right here for taste. So the nose for smelling, the note right here is the ear. This is the nose over here. I'm looking at it from a different angle. So, and then you have the tongue for taste, eye, sight, the leg right here. This is the leg for feeling. And then this is thought. Just line up here at the top is thought. So those are the five senses plus the sixth sense of thought. Again, you got nose. Going this way, nose. Then you got the ear. And then when the ear, it'll be like that right there. There you go, ear. So right there, right here, actually. Then the eye in the center. And the tongue, taste right there. And feeling, the leg. So you really can't see it like that. If you're looking at it from a glance, you gotta really view it. You be like, oh yeah, the tongue. I see the tongue right there. Yeah, I see that leg. Look at that. Then yeah, I notice the angle of the nose right there. And then I see the angle of the ear. Then you have the eye, of course, in the center. But again, we are intelligent. Basically, we are very intelligent and tuned to. They like the European came into the indigenous lands and said they are the most spiritual people. We're in tune to intelligence or spirit, and that's just a natural process that we partake in life. If we really want to participate with it from the truth of our experience, not from what somebody telling us outwardly. You know what I'm saying? So in that participation, you connect back to source directly instead of indirectly by way of communicating through these external devices and the external means. We came straight from here. And first and foremost, you know what I'm saying, we ain't had no words. The words was the words of light that flowed through these symbols and pictures, you know what I'm saying? Confucius stated that the world would not be ruled by men and words, it'd be ruled by symbols. Each word broken down, men, MEN. What is that? That's water, that's he, and that's a snake or N, you know what I mean? And they all mean something different. Each symbol within the water, he is the E is like it's supposed to be flat with three right there. But when you're looking at it, it'd be like this. So that's E right there. And what is this? It's Ka. So this spirit. So you looking at the letter E from this angle, but this is where the symbol derived from us putting our hands up and gaining the chi or prana or you know what I'm saying, or that energy, that Ra into our hands. You know what I mean? So this is where we get the letter E from, which means he. You know what I'm saying? Because you're looking at a person, a man or whatever, raising their hands, getting life, or ha, Hayy, haye, life. You know what I'm saying? Right here in the palms of the hands, the langai points, or the workers' palace, what we call it in martial arts and internal martial arts as far as doing qigongs. So these symbols. So he and then N snake or whatever the N and water, which is M. You turn it upside down as W, but it's water. You know, they all have. Everybody ain't gonna go into that, but that's the hologram again. Holy words. You know what I'm saying? So, like if you just said, the world is ruled by the symbols because we don't know what the symbols are, but we reflect off of those things in our archetypal information, what's in our DNA and genetics, and we formalize things by way of defining what we thinking it is in the physical reality as far as the hologram is concerned, and we don't relate to where the hologram arrived from, where how the light came from this unknown 0 point field and then is formulated into what we got. Everything that's already here has already been formulated for us, you know what I'm saying? But we get stuck on what we thinking it is as far as the hologram with our senses that we fail to realize that the origin of it had nothing to do with fear, like the Illuminati saying, this the eye of something I don't know. They got all type of things that, and Illuminati means children of light. So they know it's the children of Ra, or I didn't say they, but the system, or whatever you want to call it, knows that this is the children of light. You know what I'm saying? But as far as we are concerned, we participate with a fear-based reality. So everything that we are listening to, looking at, smelling, tasting, and feeling, basically, or whatever, from thoughts is fear-based. So tame the animal nature, bring the energy back up, produce your holographic universe on a love base, from the heart. Get back to this here. So that's the Alpha root. And it also related to a system of math and geometry. It was called the Haiket. So the Haiket also, we used it, I say they, but we as a people used it to measure grains, you know what I'm saying, when we were growing like comets and corn, wheat, barley, these different things, or whatever it may be, we would measure it by way of these different symbols within the eye. So 1/2, that's the nose. 1/4 is sight, that's the circle. 1/8 was the thought, forethought right there. Hearing, that's the ear. All right. Um, and you see how all of them are. And then taste is 132, and then touch is 164 for a whole. So that would be the whole eye. If something would weigh one or whatever, it would be wrote down as the whole eye. If it only weighed half, it would be wrote down as just the nose. If it was 1/4, it would be wrote down as the eye. You know what I'm saying? But when it was the whole thing, 164, well, 1 in 64 would be touch, and that's the leg. My bad. So that's how I mean, from an intelligent point of view, or just thinking about it, it's like wow, so many ways to look at one thing. We tend to just be one-sided and just one-track mind, but our ancestors went like that. You can put the hieroglyph, like you can put a, one line of a hieroglyph or metaneta that's on the walls of the pyramids, and you can flip it and invert it and do all type 4 different ways of reading that thing, and it always has 4 different meanings. It's never just one way to look at what we looking at, and that's also in the holographic expression. What we thinking we looking at ain't necessarily what we're looking at. It's a beautiful representation in some perspectives, but what we're looking at right now in this representation again is based on fear. So just to break some of that mythology, and myth means knowledge or to know. We're going to go through what we're going through tonight with the hologram, the holographic expression. Queen, what's the time? How long? How long? Okay, so it's about an hour 15. All right. So yeah. Right here with waveforms and intelligent darkness. So does consciousness create reality and the material world? Before I answer that, or before we go into it, it's important to first know that the material world is composed of pretty much nothing. All right. So in reality, the reality that we are looking at is not simply what we thinking it is, as far as the physical pieces. When you break it down, what we're looking at are molecules, which are made of atoms, and then atoms that are made of subatomic particles, like protons and electrons, which are 99.9999% nothing or empty space. These are then broke down to or made of quarks inside of quantum physics. And then what we are looking at within that is the superstring field or the 0 point field of quantum field, which consists of these vibrating strings, that waveform that gives rise to what physicists say is the fundamental particles that are in nature that all vibrate or have some type of frequency. So what we are interacting with within this physical world or the phenomenal world, meaning light, so the world or objects of light um, is only due to our intellect and our sensory data. So those six senses or the five senses, the sixth sense being that thought, um, what we are thinking, the knower, the thinker, and the doer. So that the thinker is thinking certain things because the knower is not, as far as inferior elements, or the hologram that we're thinking is real, because the knower is not connected. The spirit is not connected, to the doer, the knower, the thinker, the doer, the eternal self. So the sensory data is confusing us somewhat right now. So at the most minute scales of nature, the idea of physical reality is really non-existent. At the most minute, the most fundamental scale of nature is really not what we're thinking it is. It's empty space. So when we touch our hands together, or we touching the table, or we eating food and chewing and feeling teeth grind together, it's really not doing nothing. That's just empty space. You know what I'm saying? With the slightest energetic spin of the minor particles. So we getting this electric input from external things and it goes into us or whatever and we thinking it's real. But that's the ingredients of matter and basically has no real true physical structure. So understanding or overstanding that reality is a cosmic mixture of non-localized energy and empty space, it becomes a little clearer that our thoughts and the signals that register in our brain, gram, the silent mind, also, the signals, gram, or message, that register in our brain also have the same properties as the empty space or that non-localized energy that's coming into the empty space in that movement. You know what I'm saying? Energy and motion, non-localized energy, energy and motion, and space or space time again is movement. So our thoughts are also an activity of the universe, and all the activities that take place in the universe or the 0 point field are placed within the same realm that is manifesting into the physical reality. So our thoughts come from, like we say, hindsight is 2020. Our thoughts, ideas, thoughts, physical. But our ideas and thoughts come from the same place or that non-localized energy where it starts to connect into realization of what we call physical nature. So nature operates without prejudice. I mean, it's not guided by our emotions in the sense that we think it is. So when we actually try to scientifically investigate the origin of consciousness or the physics of consciousness, we only get hints of the intelligence. And the reality is that they're not separate as material science would have us think. So consciousness and physical reality are together, or the material world and consciousness are here together as one. But we tend to want to separate it and say one thing is what it is and the other thing is what it is. And that's how the human brain do. We like to separate left from right. That's actually, again, that's the 18th galaxy, the Milky Way, right there, from the Hubble telescope's perspective. All right. So this is a book called The Self-Aware Universe, written by Dr. Amit Goswami from the University of Oregon. In the book, he talks about quantum mechanics. So you have the wave function. A quantum object such as an electron can be more. This is what he stated, and he said a quantum object such as an electron can be at more than one place at the same time. It can be measured as a wave smeared out in space and can be located at several different points across this wave. This is called the wave property. So basically, what that means is whatever I'm looking at right here in front of me, thinking is the table right here in front of me, it can also be somewhere else in another space and time at a different point in space and time. So, for instance, I'm seeing it right now. I leave here tomorrow, and I see whatever's on this table right now. I leave here tomorrow after clearing this table. In my mind, I can still see what's on this table the day before, even though I'm not. It's not there presently at that time or space in that movement of the next day. So the electron has jumped from being, or the quantum object that thinking we looking at has jumped. This is just in the physical reality. Has jumped from being there, located on that table, as far as like cell phone and tea and all that, being there right there in that day, until the next day where it's cleaned off and nothing is on the table, but yet in the mind it's still there. So it can be moved and measured as a wave, smeared out in space, and can be located at several different points across this wave. So that's the mind. Discontinuity. A quantum object ceases to exist here and simultaneously appears in existence over there without traveling to intervening space. This is known as the quantum jump. It essentially teleports. So discontinue. We think it's here and then it jumps across. So sometimes we're looking forward, but as soon as I turn my back, is what I'm looking at in front of me at that when I was looking forward, and then after I turn, is it still there behind me? You know what I'm saying? An action at a distance. A manifestation of one quantum object caused by our observation simultaneously influences correlated to an object, no matter how far apart they are. Fire, an electron, and a proton off in an atom. Whatever happens to the electron, the exact same or exact opposite will happen to the proton. This is called quantum action at a distance. So action at a distance basically means whatever happens on one side is going to happen on the other side, or it's going to be the complete opposite. But it is influencing the twin object. Whatever is going on with the electron and proton within the atom, if something happens to the electron, the same thing is going to happen to the proton, or the exact opposite. The observable effect. A quantum object cannot be said to manifest in ordinary space-time reality until we observe it. So when we observe the particle, the quantum object exists indefinitely as a non-local wave until it is being observed directly. Consciousness literally collapsed the wave function of a particle. So again, this is the observer effect. A quantum object or a physical object cannot be said, or a quantum object cannot be said to manifest in ordinary space-time reality until we, as a conscious being, observes it as a particle. So it's going to be a waveform until we observe it and it forms into a particle. The quantum object exists indefinitely as a non-local wave, that waveform, until it is being observed by the individual or the dual self directly. Consciousness literally collapsed the wave function or the waveform of a particle. It makes it physical. The last point is interesting because it implies that without a conscious observer present to collapse this wave, it will remain unmanifested in a state of potentiality, in a state of power. The potential. Power, again, is potentious, Latin word for power is potentious. And what did we say? Usur's name, U-S-I-R, means power, or El means power. So that unmanifested state of God is where it will remain, or the 0 point field, that point, that dot, period, point, dot. That's that flat surface. That's the soul, the light. Also, what I'm saying, but that's that potential, infinite potential. So observation not only agitates the wave function. What happens to be measured, it produces the effect of the wave function after it's been observed. It not only aggravates or agitates it, it produces what we're looking at by way of our observation of what we're thinking. This was verified in what is known as the double slit experiment. Research that. I'm not going to go through that because that's about a 30-minute conversation right there. The double slit experiment. Double slit. That's SLIT experiment. Where it was a conscious observer, and by way of that, the presence of that conscious observer, it changed the behavior of an electron from a wave state to a particle state. So every time the observer was inside of the experiment, it basically just changed it from the wave function into a particle or a physical thing. And that's by way of the mind and moving the energy and motion. This effect, as far as the observer effect, has led a lot of scientists to think that without consciousness, the universe would exist unfixed, in that sea of quantum potential. So basically, in other words, what that means is the physical reality won't exist without thinking or without consciousness. So there will be no physical matter if there's no consciousness to participate with in that function. That's basically, again, sort of like the atom and the electron and proton. So if we are looking at that correctly, that means consciousness is therefore the ground of the becoming or being the physical reality. So you must have consciousness prior to the physical universe. So consciousness or intelligence literally creates the physical world. So what that's basically implying again is what we thinking we are connected to or seeing in the external reality is actually coming from consciousness, which is unseen. But when consciousness, the unseen, is connected to what we are thinking, it forms, because the observer is now that's the consciousness, or the thinking is now connected to the movement, and it forms into what we are looking at. So how can we understand this connection with the external world? So we create our reality. Basically, that's the old saying that we use. We are creating our reality. So when we saying it, it refers to the fact that our thoughts create the reality or the perspective that we have of what we think it is our reality within the world. But what we now see as with more concrete evidence is that the literal overstanding of this phrase is we actually are giving rise to the physical universe within our own prefaces. So, however we seeing things in our thoughts is what we're going to create externally within the hologram, good or bad. All right, so raise our thoughts. So we've been conditioned since the onset of physical birth that the world we live in is outright material reality. Hold up. I'm going to change the pictures real quick. Matter of fact. And if we're thinking of the world like that or the material reality as the truth, it's developed in that sense because of what we've been conditioned to believe, learned behavior. And, say subconscious learned behavior basically. So we develop from the basis of this viewpoint, and then we basically, again, we generate or structure our whole life around this condition. Science is now rediscovering what our ancient ancestors of antiquity knew more than 25,000 years ago, that the material world is composed of finer sublime elements that are actually wrapped together and create the fabric of life. I'm gonna read this. I'm think I'm not gonna go too far into these books. This is the Ankh. Ankh means life. So the Ankh, the African origin of electromagnetism. By Nur Ankh Amin. We're gonna look at pages 73, I think 90, 73 and 47. 73 states right here: all living systems have electromagnetic phantoms. The phantoms of atoms and molecules are called photons. They are the essence of the nuclear life governing the energy states of the material world. So everything has a phantom. A phantom has a double, basically, something that's unseen. We're looking at the physical reality like it's the real thing, but that thing that we're looking at actually has a phantom as well, which is unseen. And also, I'm gonna read this out of here. The symbols in many hieroglyphic reliefs are in fact elements of electronic circuit design meant to convey knowledge of the hidden force of electromagnetism to the future generations. These symbols will hold supreme religious significance only to the descendants of a race of photonic beings. Photon again is light beings or light beings of light, light angels of light. Photon or pataan. So pataan is light from heaven to earth. Pet, heaven, ta, earth, on light from heaven to earth. So that's that light spectrum, that light code spectrum, that you will pick up in meditation to enhance your genetic expression. Again, that is the book Ankh, the Ankh. Good book. It brings more information about how we are connected to certain aspects of elementals. Okay, I got you. I'll go into that in a few seconds. How do I get what I want from the hologram? I think we're going into that right now, so bear with me. No doubt. I appreciate that question. I talk about how I can find my purpose and destiny. No doubt. That's hopefully I will be answering those questions here shortly. Good, thanks. I appreciate you brothers for putting that up there. All right. So all the information that we observe. Oh, let me go back to the pics. I know it's still on me. My beat. Here we go. Oh, 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 oh. All right. What we observing as far as the information, like what we was looking at the Al-Harus a few minutes ago. Um, what we're observing when concerning, let's talk about like our senses: sight, hearing, taste, smell, and touch. is really not what we are looking at. Man has become reliant on these five senses since birth, and in turn, what has happened is the external reality is offering us um, gratification by way of these five senses or the five animals. You know what I'm saying? Five thieves. So science has performed different tests on our senses, has revealed new facts about this external world and our senses and matter. So what they have found is that, and this is a statement from Friedrich Vester, a German scientist, and his statement that explained that man is merely an image and everything experienced is temporary and deceptive, and this universe is a shadow. This statement is now being revealed in the present day. To gather a stronger understanding on this idea, let's look at our most valuable sense. And our most valuable sense is basically sight, the eye of Haru. You know what I'm saying? So sight, which is in essence, allows us to gain a very detailed, informative aspect or perspective of the external reality. So in that process of seeing, we comprehend gradually um, the physical reality. In the occurrence of seeing, light clusters called photons travel from the object to the eye, then pass through the eye lens, and then is refracted like water, air, or glass. Refraction basically means when water, air, or glass hits a ray of light, make a ray of light, and then change the direction when it enters into an angle. So when light goes through the eye, it passes through the eye lens, is refracted, or basically it changes direction, and then it's focused into the retina at the back of the eye. So it's like it turns it upside down. Well, we looking at something in front of us, but it's really in our brain or whatever our mind is upside down. It ain't the way we're looking at it. So within the retina, photons or that light of the sun is converted into electrical signals where neurons transmit these signals to the center of vision in the back of our brain, the medulla oblongata region. So what we thinking we looking at takes place in the center, sagittal, that center, the middle. So message again, the wise, the wisdom within the middle. All of the images and experiences that we think and we're viewing and participate with are actually experienced in that small space of only a few cubic centimeters in the back of our brain. When we say we see something, what we actually are looking at are photons being converted into electrical signals in our brain. So that's the hologram, the holographic expression or the holographic universe. The light, the silent light that goes in the brain, you know what I'm saying? The intelligence. The brain, in essence, is sealed to light. And the interior of the brain is darkness, complete darkness, substantial nigara. So the physical brain has no capability or access at all to contact with light. So light ain't silent light, you know what I'm saying? Silent light of the brain. That's it, that's the breath, something unseen anyway. So the brain has no access to light that we thinking we looking at. So for instance, if you light a candle in complete darkness and it's sitting in front of you, inside our skull and our brain or whatnot is still complete darkness. The inside of our brain or the center of vision, the wisdom within the middle, is not illuminated or is not lit by the light of the candle. That's also for the other senses. So sound, taste, touch, and smell are all perceived in our brain as signals of electricity or electrical signals, or waveforms, electrons and protons. Our brains confront the original matter that exists in the external world as that electrical copy that is formed in our brain. At that point, is then conditioning takes place and our memories or our past is forgotten. So our past experiences are bombarded by all these different things that thinking we're looking at that aren't even really there, present in totality, spiritually. Physically, we touching it, and all that is right there, but we're not reflecting on the past or where it is developed from, basically the 0 point field. What we're looking at is just electrical copies of the information or the original matter, which would be basically the protons and electrons. And then it starts spinning and all that because of our thoughts or whatever in that chaos theory and forms into the physical reality. So this is where we're thinking that the copies that's being formed is actually real, but they're electrical signals. Everything we touch, see, smell, hear, taste, and conceive as matter is an actuality from the macrocosmic universe to the macrocosmic universe as far as the atom. It's from the micro into what we call the macro. But that atom is originated from an electric signal in our brain and it forms into what we would call a banana or whatever. So when we view an object from the external reality and truth, this object is not outside of us, it's just in our brain. So the light particles or photons that on the infinite path of the sun from heaven to earth gathers it by our eye, then it converts it to electrical signals that are transmitted by neurons and then transferred again back to the center of vision located in the back of our brain. So if we cut a sight nerve and it's disconnected, we won't be able to see the object no more. Same thing with the feelings of like the taste. If we cut the nerve of taste, then we won't be able to taste the object anymore. So the objects we thinking we are looking at, or we hear, or we taste, are going through a circuit. But if that circuit is cut, just like if I cut the power cord on the TV, then the TV won't transmit any type of information. And that empty box or whatever, that blackness is all it's going to see. So it's coming from a source of energy, then flows into what we think and we looking at. So the interpretation of the electrical signals introduced into the brain is similar to that, like of an electrical device. So you cut the cord of a TV or a radio, then the electrical device won't have any type of projection or sound coming out of it. The only reality that we conceive is the conceptual perception that we view within our mind. So imagine matter as having an existence outside of the mind is only the physical illusion of reality, rerouting itself through our attention or our spiritual life, energy, and motion from the internal reality, and therefore it is best a deception. So this physical reality is an illusion and a deception. The matter or the true light, balanced light, the light the light of the life that we observe is in essence formulated and created from within our mind by way of our interconnection with external light or external melanin and internal light, internal melanin. So it has been stated in conscious thought that the brain can be allegorically called an organic computer. So for example, let's say we are downloading electrical signals or images, sounds, smells, feelings, and tastes to our senses that our organic computer downloads as true information, including our own mirror image. In essence, the genetic patterns that reside within our DNA internally is not so much the external image or what we may relate to as being produced by our parents. So even who we thinking we are as far as connected to our parents is really just electrical inputs coming from via basically the downloads in our organic computer by way of um, source information. So looking into even the subconscious realm, into the dream state in contrast to the waking state, when we dream or we're in the subconscious state, what we see, what we hear, what we can feel is what we deem as fantasy or dream. Yet and still when we arise from that dream or that subconscious state, we are still connected to the same senses in different degrees, as far as being hearing, seeing, feeling, whatnot, tasting. But in the dream state, we are at times relaxed and at ease. So we have that movement going, not disease. So seeing that we are connected to the same force or energy, that undifferentiated energy matter in both realities, it is highly possible that the physical reality can also be developed, converted, and transmitted to be more suitable to our true heart's intent and desire. So, due to this external reality being nothing more than an altered interpretation of those electrical signals or light that resides within our dream state as well as within our subatomic, atomic, molecular, and cellular structures, all physical experiences and objects are naturally conceptual perceptions, including our brain and body. So, who you are and who you think you are is only a conception that is naturally produced by way of the subtle energy of subatomic, atomic, molecular um, um, activity that forms into the cellular structures of who we are physically. Changes pick up. And so we had the DNA coding or in the gene or the chromosome that we thinking, as far as family and our parents is concerned, passing down genes, that we are looking at them and saying, this is I look like him or her and all that. And, but what about 1,000 years ago when that gene was in someone else? Who did we look like? 1,000 years prior to that, or even from another plane of existence, as far as coming in that curvature, from line, plane, into solid, as far as those three dimensions are concerned. So, we are looking at something and thinking that is what it is. That's not the truth of the matter. You know what I mean? And that's mitosis again. So the question now that should be posed is who or what is the perceiver or the initiator of the will, that intent that moves the intent of what we hear, see, touch, and perceives, taste, and smells. Who is controlling that? Who is that? Who is the one thinking and reasoning through the feelings and emotions? And who is recognized as having the knowledge of self? You know what I'm saying? So some people call it the ghost in the machine, or the small man within the man. Where is the I? You know what I'm saying? Who realizes what's going on? You know. So Francis of Assisi said that what we search for is the one who sees. You know what I'm saying? So the fact of the matter is that this metaphysical being that utilizes the brain for experience is the soul. That SOL or SUL, soul food. So food for the soul, SOL, light. You know what I'm saying? Sunlight or intelligence, food for the soul food. So the materiality is in actuality only an adaptation of what we perceive that is gathered by the soul, the light, the information, the intelligence, the breath. There's different ways we could look at it, you know what I'm saying? But that after it bounces off that plane of, because the soul is connected to zero, or the 0 point, the 0 point field. So the soul being so connected to that, it actually is that, you know what I'm saying? So when the body we possess as well as the universe we so called exist in have no middle, or are in truth empty space, have no physical reality. So what we thinking we're looking at externally really is empty space that is embarking on a path or movement from 0 point field, or that flat surface, into the third dimension, or that plane of solidity. The absolute being is our soul. And since that is the truth, and the intelligence being the initiatory spark, is basically stating that the fire, or the point that expanded outward into the known physical body and to the universe, is the unseen, or the empty space, that flat surface. And then the light, or that line, the movement, the sunlight, starts to go into forming the matter. So matter consists of our perceptions, our thoughts. That's the consciousness. And that is what is connected to the triune self, the knower, thinker, and doer. And this is the spark of life, the soul, as we was talking about the ankh, the life, life. So that life, or matter, from the physical perspective, consists of thoughts first, or consciousness. So in order for physical reality to exist, there first must be conscious reality, or thinking. from different perspectives, and that's from flowing from the knower, thinker, and the doer. So this is called. Some people look at it like, what I'm saying. So the brain is an organic computer again. So then this information that we are getting, or the light that we're getting, is downloaded into our um, organic computer. So if the matter doesn't have a self-operating existence and is only a perception, then the perception must have been initiated by some type of source energy, and it must be in continuous perpetual motion, or the matter would cease to exist. So if there is no source energy or undifferentiated energy matter where consciousness exists, then none of this physical reality will be present. So we are conditioned to think of space as being empty and matter as being solid. You know what I'm saying? So when the reality is that matter is completely insignificant, it's 99.9% nothing. So scientists thought of an atom as a hard ball, and eventually they figured out this hard ball is potentially nothing. It's an empty cloud of electrons popping in and out of existence, is what they said. So the most accurate conclusion towards what nature is, or basically the atom, is that it is a thought, a mass of concentrated information, light, or intelligence. So the human aura, for instance, is an illuminated living energy field that extends beyond the physical boundaries. And that picture there is the soul, basically, if you want to look at it like that. It's the black dot, you know what I'm saying, the flat surface light going out from center to form the physical reality. Champ, what you doing, boy? So this is the auric field right here. The human aura, for instance, is an illuminated living energy field that extends beyond the physical boundaries. It is the light extension of our soul essence. Biophotons are particles of light which emanate off of all living things. Bio meaning life, basically. And photon, again, is light of the sun. So the sun light of life. These biophotons transmit our consciousness and information, similar to the voices and images that are formulated from a TV or radio. So everything in reality exists by these waveforms we was talking about earlier. Sometimes they call patterns or sin waves, signatures or sound waves. Everything from our body, planets, the entirety of the whole universe are waveforms. So dimensional overtones are differentiated base rate wavelengths. The difference between these dimensions and another dimension is the difference or the distance of the length of the wave. This is very similar to a TV or radio transmission. When you change the channel with TV or radio, it changes what you're observing from that device. It is the same for dimensional overtone shifts. If one alters the base rate wavelength of their consciousness, and by doing such change the physical patterns of their body to a wavelength different from this reality into an alternate dimension or universe, the indivisible dual self will disappear from this world and reappear in the dimension that is attuned to their consciousness. As one elevates into dimensional levels, the wavelengths become shorter and higher frequencies are produced, which in turn imparts more energy and light. As one descends dimensional levels, the longer the wavelengths become with less energy and more densely developed. So again, what we were speaking on early outside of the book, the KEMETIC died, stated that light died, light thoughts, or light sustenance, taking substance of light, produce light thoughts basically, and therefore our energy levels or what we are developed as far as our aura will be will um will shed more light outwardly. So if the eye is full with light, then our whole body will be full with light. as the scripture states, but it didn't say eyes, it said eye. So that pineal gland is the black dot, basically, if you will, and it is that flat surface and it's taking in light. So that's that point, the pineal gland being the point where light comes in, the bindu dot, the black dot, light comes in, or movement, that's that line. Then it forms into angles or curvatures as it flips, you know what I'm saying? So that curve from the refraction of the light goes into the physical reality by way of these electrical inputs or electrical signals. So if you have um, if we have shorter wavelengths, then we have higher frequencies because the wavelengths are there's not a lot of space in there. Put it like that. If you got a big bowl, you're gonna put a lot of stuff in there, so that would be longer wavelengths. So that's how I look at it. So if you got a smaller bowl, that would be short wavelengths. You can't put as much information. You can't put that much information in there that's going to latch on, and we thinking that that's what it is. So if you have more light, that means shorter wavelengths. So you want a small bowl. You don't want a big bowl and take on all this physical reality because then you just dense. So that's that long wavelength. The long wavelength is wider, so it's more densely developed because there's more light getting in there. So that's more information. We thinking it's real, but the shorter wavelength, you're only picking up the higher frequencies. So you're picking up information that's necessarily for the upliftment of self and the upliftment of all. Subatomic quantum mechanics is a set of principles studying the subatomic and atomic level of matter. This science was known by the ancient masters of Afu Rakam or our ancient brothers and sisters of Kemet long ago. Quantum physics states that the observer influences the outcome or alters the consciousness of the experiment simply by observing, and this is all dependent on his or her belief patterns. Meaning, some things that we hold as true about ourselves are not necessarily true at all. Change the pickup. I'll keep going back in, but stay with me, bear with me. Yes, indeed. All right, so the pineal gland, the master gland, the all-seeing eye, the first eye, third eye. We have different titles for it. Is centered is in the uppermost center of our brains. It's situated right. Is the gland situated within the midbrain or between the midbrow within the endocrine system? It's similar to a pine cone. That's why some people say it's called the pineal gland. But as we mentioned earlier, pineal is means face to face with God, or face to the face of God, Panu and El, the face of the energy, the face of power. It looks like a pine cone, though, you know what I'm saying, with an opening on it, on one portion of it that has lenses used for focusing light. So it also has color receptors inside of it. So that's very similar to a cell phone, which has built-in wireless transmitter. The pineal gland allows communication with other realms of light. So in essence, it's accessing higher dimensions and higher astral realms of life. So that's like again a cell phone. We really don't need these external devices to speak to each other because the pineal gland has the same capabilities. It's also just like the eye, so it's taking in by way of light, taking in information that's unseen that the physical eye ain't even registering. You know what I mean? I'm breezing through some of the information right here. Right here, the pineal gland is our connection to the power source that permeates the universe, some call prana, chi, ki, or raw life force energy. When considering the powerful capabilities and functions of the pineal gland, why has the masses been stricken from this vital information? From my perspective, mainly due to the operation of innate powers born within us, within each human, that the parasitic illittle wish to keep hidden in order to continue with their domination or demonation exercises and techniques. So by the age of 12, the pineal gland is the size of a dry pea from the lack of use, and yet more. So, and yet more from plots of methods that have caused contamination and calcification or crystallization of the pineal gland, which is a soft tissue, and when it's calcified, it becomes hardened. These contaminants include fluoride in drinking water, vaccinations, MSG, monosodium glutamate, which we had some yesterday. Give thanks. Did some internal work, some detoxing, get that up out of there, sweating and meditating. Good thinking, you know what I'm saying? Light thoughts. Give thanks. Also, what contaminants are artificial food colorings and flavors, food additives, as well as binders, fillers, and preservatives. All right, so these things are calcifying the pineal gland. To awaken the pineal gland a fraction, these items must be completely eliminated from our diet, along with white salt, white sugar, white rice, and flour. Also, unplugging from the TV and radio for at least 1 year due to its hypnotic effect on our psyche and the extra low frequencies, which influence the pineal gland to act in accordance to whatever message. Again, message is again meso and sage wisdom of the middle. When this information is corrupted, it causes more chaos, and the information or light is being interpreted throughout the complete structure of the human aura as fear. Let's change this pickup again. Nah, just leave it right there like that. Get things. So when the pineal gland um when it goes back online and is awakened, it will speed up your learning and memory ability. It will enhance your intuition, your wisdom, your creativity, sharpen your awareness. It activates psychic abilities. It allows you to actually communicate with the ancestors or internal and external melanin or the source field, the 0 point field, to bring about the highest experience of your bliss. So, meditation, reading, researching, and obtaining knowledge of self within the world and the universe will also generate that awakening. So being in tune with different things like meditation, researching who you are, um, basically knowledge of self. This will also help you acquire um, that awakening. As the brother had asked, I think he had asked, how can I find my purpose and destiny? That's how. So go back into that, and also he had asked, or if, I mean, it may be if the name is Tracy, but basically, how do I get what I want from the hologram? So hopefully, I'm thinking that may answer your question right there. I'm reading from the Kemetic diet, and will eating meat lower one's vibration? Get thanks for that question. And calcify the pineal gland. Some spiritualists who eat meat can tap into the spiritual realm without any problems. Eating meat can lessen the chance of someone who may not have a balance within their own intelligence of what it is. You know what I'm saying? If you want to eat meat, that's your preference. Um, Matter of fact, my big breakfast had eggs in it, something I normally don't do. So sometimes the body is going um is going to, if you want to use that word, what is the word I'm thinking of? It's going to want to feel like crave. There you go. Thank you, Queen. Good God. It's going to crave certain things due to the I guess like B12 in eggs and vitamin D. It's protein, you know what I'm saying, involved. But today we cooked that big breakfast for family, and eggs were involved. So I ate some eggs, and I feel all right. Yeah, and as far as spiritualists who eat meat and can tap into the spiritual realm without any problems, is probably due to the fact of their connection. You know what I'm saying, and where the connection is also balanced. You know what I mean, and it it doesn't have to be particularly that person that, because remember, we're looking at a holographic expression of something that's from a higher existence. So, or the 0 point field. So when I'm thinking I'm looking at TV and I see Michael Jordan dunking from the free throw line, it's really not Michael Jordan jumping from the free throw line as that physical entity. It's the information, the light, it's the principles of form that have been generated through that information of light or whatever that I'm looking at, not really the person that I'm thinking of in the physical. I give thanks for the individual way to do it, except for Michael Jordan, doing the thing, jumping from the free throw line. But we have to understand that it ain't the person, it's the information coming forth from the person. You know what I mean? So, you do what we got to do to get there. Everybody's road and path may not be the same, yet, you know what I'm saying? We do have to test the waters to know who I am and what we are capable of doing with each application. You know what I mean? Give thanks. All right. So the holographic principle again claims that gravity in this universe comes from thin vibrating strings like we was talking about, or springs. You know what I mean? Water, chaos. But these strings are holograms or Holo-Grams. Again, silent light from the mind, or silent light that goes into the mind. But that hologram or Holo Garam is coming from a simpler, more refined, flatter cosmos or universe. The principle states that, like a security chip on a credit card, there are two-dimensional surfaces that contains all the information needed to describe a three-dimensional object, which in this case is our universe. So the theory also claims that data containing a description of a volume of space, such as a human or a comet, could be hidden in a region of this flat and real version of the universe. So in a black hole, for instance, all the objects that ever fall into it would be entirely contained in surface fluctuations or ups and downs, almost like a piece of a computer memory or contained on a chip that are contained on the chip. So that flat surface, the pineal gland, black dot, or whatever, like we were speaking on earlier, is just like that. It's like the security chip on a credit card. So this two-dimensional flat surface takes in information that is needed to illuminate or describe the third-dimensional object. So this is the theory of the theory of the holographic principle. It states that gravity in the universe comes from this thin vibrating strings, or the quantum field, the string theory, the quantum string theory. I think that's what it's called. Um, so that black hole is in relation to our soul, or the black dot, or the pineal gland, the bindu dot. So it's a two-dimensional structure that projects outward the physical reality into from the cosmological horizon. It's in Horus rising, light on light rising. You know what I'm saying? So in simple terms, that's projection. So it projects outwardly into what we think and we're looking at. So if we can understand the laws that govern physics on a distant surface, then the principle suggests that what we grasp all there is to know about the reality that we dwell in, or the ultimate reality, is basically an illusion, or it's a hologram, Holo-Gram, or Haru, holy, or Madu Netir, or holy words, or holy scripture. Helios Biblos, Helios light or sun, Biblos words. So sons or words of light, again divine words, or Medu Netir, light code spectrums, and that's the step down information from the cosmic point of view into what we have is the galactical, from solaric into photonic, and into the ions or whatnot, as far as what's coming from the ionosphere into this physical reality. Ions are basically electrons and protons. We'll change this pickup right here. We're getting to the finale of it. I know it's been a little minute, a little over 2 hours, but we almost right there at it. So give thanks to you guys for bearing with me. You know what I mean? Peace, power, peace, protection, and prosperity to you all. You know, that's electromagnetic field of the heart. All right, so holograms again. Holo-Gram is silent light that goes into the mind. That's intelligence. So our thoughts become strengthened on the outcome or event when you create a hologram of what you wish to be. The more you focus your thoughts, the stronger the hologram you create. So if you begin to see that the learning and creating for yourself is by way of the light or information that comes into, then your confidence is also going to build when you notice that physical um, reality being formulated by way of your thoughts and is on a higher vibration. So confidence in yourself and your ability to create is of the utmost importance. And also confidence that it will manifest in your future is of the utmost importance. So you have to have confidence in yourself and confidence that it's going to manifest. So try to regress from thinking negative inside of that transition of manifestation by way of the light going through from 0 point into the physical reality. So zero, then the light, the line, formulating the plane with its curves, and then it connects and forms the physical reality. If there's obstructions, then it's going to take longer. So that's why I don't do certain things. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, people ask me, what are you doing to do this and get that? And I be like, it's what I'm not doing. So the less is more. You know what I mean? So that's that short wavelength versus that long wavelength. That's the high frequency versus that low frequency, extra low frequencies by way like I stopped watching TV for almost 7 years. I didn't watch any TV. I just started back watching TV 2018. And I stopped back in 2011. So it was a few years of just gathering myself and obtaining knowledge of self. It's just like going to a university, you know what I'm saying? If I'm gonna go to college and really get what I want to out of the university or college, then I need to cut off some of these other things that's distracting me. You know what I'm saying? That's any person though, but basically, you know what I'm saying? So I cut off a lot of different things that was distracting me, and one of them was TV. And I didn't even know, you know, it was going to help enhance the pineal gland and that. But I really did stop watching TV for 7 years. I wouldn't even, anytime I went out and TV was on in like an establishment, like an eatery or something, I would turn my back to it. I would not focus my eyes on it. Even though I heard it, I wouldn't look at it. Now it's a little different. Now I know what I'm looking at. I can discern between the Hegelian dialect or, you know, problem, reaction, solution type thing, and balance. So balance is very important when we are dealing with this holographic expression. So understand and overstand and understand the power that you have in creation and the process that you can utilize with this power to unite who you are with what you want, you know what I'm saying, or what your intent is in your creation process. So when you're doing this, when you wish to balance, you want to be with like-minded people, and you want to journey with those like-minded people to endeavor in what you are trying to locate, be it peace, tranquility within the planetary changes, or be it you know, prosperity and abundance that's not regulated off of the physical dollar bill. But, you know, to get to that point, you might need a couple of dollars, you know what I'm saying? But just to be in peace, you can be at peace with prosperity, you know what I'm saying? I mean, if I got prosperity, then I could be at peace. And I can also be, if I have protection, then I can definitely get to prosperity. So peace, prosperity, protection, and good health. So by way of having peace, one gains access to prosperity. And when one has protection, then that prosperity is secure. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's not from a physical point of view, like with a dollar bill. So just balance, um, or whatnot is very important because it will help you strengthen your creation process and form whatever hologram you wish, or the light of the intelligence. You know what I'm saying? Or the divine um, word or divine light. So allow that love, that compassion to guide you. Don't give in to the fear-based thoughts that are being projected in the hologram right now from the um, the intent of others, or those are littles. Some people call it the elite, but I call them the littles. You know, so when we allow ourselves to basically operate off of false evidence appearing real or fear, it draws us away from our course of action and our truth or our manifestation. So more fear, of course, will bring more fearful situations, um, which activates from the fear we hold within. So therefore, when you want to create something positive, we have to get away from fear. If you want to create a cycle of fear, then continue to participate with fear-based information. You know what I'm saying? You want to create a cycle of love, then participate with cycles of love, or participate um, with who you are in truth. You know what I'm saying? So remember, your thoughts or your consciousness is what's creating or formulating or crashing the wave function. So your consciousness or your thoughts are the foundation of all of your holograms within creation. All right. Um, Peace, prosperity, protection, and good health. I'm going to end it in a few minutes. Yep, Organite, most definitely, you know what I'm saying, enhances your electromagnetic field. Good point. Matter of fact, I got some on right now. It is this my ancestral joint with little Buddha right there. Look at the little Buddha. This ain't it though. That's a silver Buddha, enlightened one. But this necklace was given to me by one of my brothers who was recently married, and it's actually has um the chakras and everything. Is a coil on the back of it, like the chakra. It's Metatron symbol right there with a little light on it. There you go. It has all the chakras, Metatron symbol within the organite, copper coil on the back. You know what I'm saying? And it does enhance the electromagnetic field. So, like in meditation, as soon as I touched it, he handed it to me in a gift box. I grabbed it, put it in my right hand, and I wasn't thinking about it because me and another brother, that was the best man. I'm just the best man and the groomsman and the groom. We were all standing there about to go out to eat that night, this restaurant, and he gave me my gift, and he gave um, the groomsman his gift. And I'm sitting there holding it. And we were just talking. I wasn't even thinking about it. Like I said, next thing I know, start getting it vibrating right here. It's like, hold on. Then my back of my head felt a little like lightheaded. I was like, what the heck? I said, what's that right there going on? This is what happened until I started touching this thing between my index finger and my thumb. So I handed it to the groomsman, to the brother. He like, what am I supposed to be feeling? And then he was like, hold up, what is that? He felt it in the back along. He said it started down here within his stomach, and then he started feeling in the back of his head, and it was like a vibrating feeling. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's that magnetism right there. And electromagnetism, like we was talking about in this book right here, is vital to melanin, or to our internal darkness, as well as and the external darkness. So when you tap into it properly and you're doing certain things, eating light food and things like that, foods to still have life and has information in it, then it's a little easier to get to that point. You know what I'm saying? If we started doing that from ground up, you know what I mean, then we'll grow into that tall tree, that sycamore, that redwood, you know what I'm saying, versus being wide and stretching out all over the place and getting, bigger and bigger as a bush. We turn into that tree because we're getting enough sunlight, enough water properly, alkalizing, you know what I mean? We're getting information, but is everything that we are participating with necessary for that our creation? All right, so yeah, yep. Let me where we at? Okay. No doubt. Yeah. You can. I forgot where he got it from, but yeah, it is a powerful piece. I get thanks for the brother for the gift. You know what I mean? And it is, it does enhance a lot of things. Also, one of those is a copper um pyramid that you can purchase that you can sit in meditation, and it's like it enhances the electromagnetic field as well. It's different things that you eating light or whatever light thoughts again most definitely will help enhance that electromagnetic field, but that also help enhances the interaction with ourselves and our creation. All right, I just looked at the queen. She looking like yeah, oh, yeah. It's around that time. I like I said, I don't want to hold you too long, monopolizing your time and everything. But I know everything is everything, and we're doing some good things together. Utilize this information for your purpose. You know what I'm saying? And to, like the brother was asking, you know what I'm saying? Um, how can I find my purpose or destiny? This is this is it. I'm gonna start back a class that I was holding a couple of years ago. Basically, it was a class. It was basically transmutation itself. Basically like it's all chemical class, but it's how one can utilize certain techniques and enhance their availability to gaining more present state of awareness within self. You know what I mean? Good question. Yes and no. It's open at birth and it gets calcified over time. So it's automatically open from initiation. It's never really closed, but it has blockages. So if one decides to detox and they ain't even knowing nothing about the pineal gland or as far as the chakras is concerned, if they detox and they get certain elements out of their physical body, then the pineal gland is just gonna naturally start activating. You know what I mean? That way. But if you're going through the chakra system, the best point of initiation to open and access those higher realms will be the heart first. Go to the heart, then from the heart, since we initiated the energy at the heart, if anything, and the intent of the heart is, of course, the love, and you notice that the bioelectromagnetic field generates more energy at the heart realm as well when we're dealing with science and in the particular studies that they perform. Then, when you see that, what you can also personify from that information is that if I go from the heart and my intent is love, and if I decide to regress because of what's going on in the physical reality, I won't shoot back down into the lower realms. I'll be at the heart region because that's my initiatory spark of life. You know, saying that 0 point field, which would be nothing or unconditioned love. Basically because love is unwavering. But if I try to open up the sacral region first, and it's down there, it's in the lower realms, and something takes place that's emotional that causes grief or causes some type of um, anxiety within me or stress, that darkness rises, and then that ignorance rises back up. The darkness that set again, darkness rest rising goes back up, and it connects to that pineal gland because it's going to cause me to act out certain different type of way with my physical reality, the hologram that I'm thinking is real, and I might start smoking, drinking, eating crazy, whatever the case may be. It will always be I'm saying best to start from the heart region as far as tapping into the pineal gland to access to tame that animal nature. If you do it out of love, it's sort of like when we discipline a child. If I discipline my child out of love, I probably ain't gonna pick up a stick. First of all, I ain't gonna beat him. You know what I'm saying? No, I don't know what that is. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna talk to my child in a certain way so that they will understand where I'm coming from and correct them in that, in that dialogue. And then I might discipline in them in a certain way so they know where I'm coming from. Like I might take, in this day and time, the cell phone or whatever, or might not allow them to go out with their friends so they can learn from that experience by way of that physical hologram being displaced inside of wherever they're at. But so, what I'm saying? So taming that lower self with love and then allowing the energies to generate properly and go back to the pineal gland love intent versus the emotion of anger or lust or aggression or sadness, it will generate a more prevalent reality within that pineal gland. Good, thanks, brother, for that question. All right, so like I said, I'm gonna shut it down. It's been about 2 hours of discourse here. I'm gonna bring some music in. I seen the brothers say something about Trap of Freedom up here. So that's what we're gonna go with. On the fade out. Again, good things, peace, prosperity, protection, and good health. So that was the breakdown on hologram, the holographic expression, hologram, again, word of light, you know what I mean? Light code spectrum, that information coming from that 0 point or the cosmos universe flowing through the galactical, which could be looked at like the line, that light coming through the galaxy and then forming into a plane, which could be looked at as like solaric or the sun. From that plane, that curvature throughout the physical reality into the photons or that light information is coming down from the sun into where we are here today as physical entities and beings. All right, so give thanks. So express your hologram from all those different perspectives, those 4 dimensions within point, line, plane, and solid, or height, width, length, and time, space. And then, stay with love, unconditioned, somewhat detached from the senses, you know what I'm saying? Sense deprivation. All right. Peace, prosperity, protection, and good health.
Yeah, ATD, above the dome, trap of freedom, it's family, tradition, heritage, the missing links, spiritual miracles, the awakenings, the walking sphinx. It's time to eat, food for thought, it's the meta magician. Holy rainwater flows off my altar, channel through the seasons, elevate the reasons. What's the purpose of life to the living, death to the conscious? At the end of days, clash of the titans, zombies running rampant, Christ in the pamper, looking for a lamp, revving at the church, plugging in the amp.
rock of the ages, son of the undead, vamping immortal rage. I bleed red ink on the page, words and truth, no signature. Here's the blur from invisible literature, sitting at the dock of the bay with Otis, having rituals. Turn the lights off, it can get real quick, sir. Milk and pot mix, I'm in search for a fix. Walking backwards, looking forwards, patiently waiting. Don't ignore it, holding two swords like peace signs aimed at your board.
Want to be caught in the trap of freedom? Do you want to be locked in the trap of freedom? Do you want to be caught in the trap of freedom? Do you want to be locked in the trap of freedom?
Darkness to light, walk into flight, hawk eyesight, interdimensional terabytes. Fuel for the journey, some lay a fuel for the gurney. Colored in the book of law, no need for attorneys. I turn the page, feel the script like a doctor coming out the cage. I'm the lion, fed grain, sticks and stones, no pain. A worker's only worth his gain, attempting to keep my inner sane. With lifestyle changes, higher than mountain plains. 7 thoughts, 7 vaults, no faults, who's to blame? It ain't the same, they take your names, I feel the sun. It ain't no fun if the homie can't have none. I see you run like Hussein, like none. It seems frightening, exciting, I go with streaming lightning. I'm the Nick and Logan at night.
Do you want to be caught in the trap of freedom? Do you want to be locked in the trap of freedom? Do you want to be caught in the trap of freedom? Do you want to be locked in the trap of freedom?
Yeah, time, space is obsolete. Locate the unlocal, way above yet so below. The permanency of non-movement, ATD, above the dome, trap of freedom. It's Blackwater, the metal magician. Mad scientist on the track. Peace.